Hello, friends. Before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you love what you hear today, take a second to hit that subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and share this episode with a friend who needs to hear it. Your support helps this podcast grow and helps us bring more amazing guests on here to inspire and empower you. So don't forget to tag us on social media when you're listening. I love seeing what's resonating with you. And today we have Kathy Washburn. She is an unbelievable individual who has been through a lot in her life, and she has taken a completely different role in her life over the last 7 years, learning more about psychology and diving deeper into what makes people happy. So take a listen to this episode, and I know you will not be disappointed. Hello, fellow mompreneurs. Welcome to the Real Moms Podcast, the go-to space for resilient entrepreneurs who are striving for abundant living. I'm your host, Shae Spitz, a mompreneur and a realtor here in Columbus, Nebraska. Are you a mom juggling the hustle of entrepreneurship, family life, and personal growth? Well, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we dive deep into the real, unfiltered stories of incredible women who are navigating the journey of mompreneurship. We'll celebrate the victories, share practical insights, and acknowledge that it's okay to face challenges along the way. Success isn't about the destination. It's about the journey and the growth we experience as we balance our careers and the chaos of family life. Whether you're a seasoned mompreneur or just starting on this exciting path, join me and our amazing guests as we explore what it truly means to be a resilient entrepreneur striving for abundant living. Get ready for real, raw, and remarkable conversations that will inspire and uplift you. Because here at the Real Moms Podcast, we believe in the power of community, authenticity, and the strength that comes from embracing the journey together. So grab your coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into the world of mompreneurship. This is the Real Moms Podcast, where we celebrate the hustle, honor the struggle, and thrive as resilient entrepreneurs living abundantly. Welcome to another episode of Real Moms Podcast. I like to start every podcast off with a motivational quote, and today's quote is, "You are under no obligation to be the person you were 5 minutes ago," and that is by Alan Watts. So today I have Kathy Washburn. She is highly regarded and influential leader, self-leadership coach, speaker, and podcaster, specializing in positive psychology, emotional health, and post-traumatic growth. Her transformative insights have resonated with over 30,000 individuals worldwide through her words, stage presence, and engaging podcast, Investment of Self. So that is the name of her podcast. With a diverse range of certifications in positive psychology, coaching, and neuroscience, coupled with an impressive 25 years of investment experience, Kathy is recognized as a leading authority in her field. So Kathy, thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your day.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with you. It's nice to see your smiling face.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I just kind of want to tell the listeners, like, where are you at right now and why are you there? I just find that interesting and fun.
I'm in this little seaside cottage in Kennebunk, Maine, after I've been struggling to finish a paper that I've been writing about post-traumatic growth, and I live in New Hampshire, which I have water near me, but not the ocean. And I grew up near the ocean, and I decided to gift myself 4 days at this seaside cottage that I've been dreaming about for 15 years. I've been getting the emails from this place for 15 years. And I got one last week, and it said, last minute, what did it say? The rates were seasonal rates, pre-season rates. And I was like, ding, I don't even know. I didn't even stop myself. So that's where I am. That's why my hair is so curly.
So a few things I want to play off of that. One, that you take the time of 4 days, because I think so many people would have a hard time to get away from life because we're always so busy really doing non-productive things in all reality. Whereas you realize, hey, if I can just take 4 days and be by myself and focus, I can get this done. Whereas if you try to do it at home and you do it here and there, it's probably going to take you weeks, if not months, and maybe a year. So that's the first thing I want to acknowledge. And the second thing is the power of emails, the power of follow-up. Literally, think about that. 15 years you've been following this place. You've never been there before?
Never.
No.
Always dreamed about it.
You click a button and you got it booked. Like, what? That just goes to show me how many opportunities I'm missing by not sending out consistent and consecutive emails, not only for my real estate business, but I have an Airbnb that's on the back burner. I never send out emails ever.
Wow. That is powerful. That's a good message. That's my takeaway. We can leave now. I've learned something.
I give this example to so many of the agents that I work with and train, is that it's a prime example. Now, it wasn't 15 years, but mine was 4. In my real estate business, 4.5 years ago now, I had showed a lady a property. I would continuously send emails. Most of them were email drip campaigns. Once in a while, there'd be a property that came up that I would text it over to her. I've maybe tried calling a couple times over those 4.5 years. Never heard a response. Never got anything back. Nothing. And then this was back in February of this year. I get it, or maybe March. I get an email from her and says, "Hey, Shae, we'd like to look at this property." I'm like, "Great, let's go take a look at it." They freaking make an offer and buy it. It's a $500,000 listing. And I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? So the power of follow-up, the power of staying consistent, and the power of emails. So that's what I took away from your little cottage story. But
Thank you.
yeah, you don't realize it, how valuable that was. And you even were part of that. You don't realize how powerful that is. Yeah, 15 years. And
15 years. Elizabeth Gilbert, she wrote this book, something about magic. I can't remember the title of it. But she talks about in there how ideas are just energetic things that are looking for humans to manifest in.
I can see that.
So when we have an idea, or when we get an idea like that email, oh God, that would be so dreamy to go into this little cottage all by myself and be by the ocean. You don't want to piss the idea universe off. So it's really important to say, wow, I see that, but it's not my time right now. Thank you for sending, but I'm not your girl right now.
Yep.
Don't piss it off, because you want the ideas to keep flowing, and you know it's the right thing when you get that interest energy, that inspiration energy, and you don't want to tamp that down. You really do want to act on it. So whether it is sending that email out, you get this urge, you're like, okay, I got this great email campaign. And to your point earlier, instead of focusing on that, like putting it down, saying, I'll do it later, that's pissing the idea universe off. You really want to follow through and give yourself that gift of time.
That's, to me, that's also like your intuition is how it's the universe, but it's also like your intuition. If you just have a feeling like, hey, I should be doing this, or I need to do this, like you need to do it. And if you don't know what to do, just do something. And I really like that. That's a quote from my Coach Michael Burt, and I'm sure he got it from somewhere else. But if you don't know what to do, something, pick up the phone, start texting, start emailing. So it's really interesting. And I've heard that quote before, and I realized after he said it to me, this was last month, I realized how often I do that, because so many times I was like, what is in my, but it's my earring. I was like, what is that jingling? Oh, okay. But so many times, like I'm like, I feel like I need to text somebody. So I get on my phone and I just start typing a name, and then all of a sudden it'll finally come to me. I'm like, oh, that's not who I need to go to. I need to go to this person. And I've always done that. Or I'll get on it, do an email thing, and I'm like, I don't remember what I was going to do, but I just start typing, and then it finally comes to me. But I thought that quote was it resonated with me, and I probably need to do it more, because if you don't know what to do, just do something. Pick up the phone, make a phone call, send an email, do a live video, whatever it is. I don't care. You don't need to make it perfect. So it is, it's important to just do something.
Action.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about this post-traumatic growth, and what you've been in this line of business for 7 years? Is that right?
7 years, yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, actually, I want to take you back just a little bit. What were you doing before, and what got you into this line of field?
Yes. What I was doing before, I was in the investment world. I used to be a municipal bond trader. Not very sexy, but if you know investments, municipal bonds are your safety, and that keeps your portfolio, keeps you able to invest in that riskier, sexier investments like equities and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But I helped start a firm 25 years prior, so I was the first employee. I wore many hats and stayed there, watched it grow. It was quite stunning. But I never really felt like that was my calling. It's fascinating. As a child, I hated math, but I worked really hard at math. I stayed after school. I got tutors. I ended up going to school for finance. Yeah. So strange. getting a job in the investment world, eventually trading, working at an investment company, but I never really liked math. I still don't like math. I love to write, and I was really good at writing when I was a child, but did not focus on writing. Spent a lot more time on math. That was my dad, and that's the path that we go. So at 50, I retired from the investment world, and I stepped away in a beautiful time. When your child gets older, they're successful, they're independent, and you can walk away and say, I did my job, I did my thing.
Yeah.
It just so happened to coincide with the end of my marriage, and within 6 months, and the end of a marriage is never a good thing. Mine was an absolute, I don't know, bombshell.
Yeah.
My ex-husband had been betraying me, but he felt the need to tell me that he had been betraying me for 18 of our 25 years. And for some reason, that completely shattered me. I should back up a little. When I was 34, I had stage 4 vulvar cancer. And at that time, you would think my world would have shattered, but it didn't. It stayed very much the same after I ended up getting better for some miraculous reason. There's no real medical reason I should still be here. But my life got back to normal. When my marriage ended, my life completely shattered. My 2 sons had left for college. They were living in Spain, another one living in Australia. My husband left me, and my dog died, all within a month. And that is traumatic, and because it really shattered everything that I believed in. So from there, it started on this wild, dark night where I was Googling something, and up came The Science of Happiness. It was an online course. I decided at 1 a.m. to jump in. I stayed up all night, fascinated by what was actually right and good inside a human, and tapping into that for myself. And that's how it all started. I just went down this path. Post-traumatic growth became my capstone project. So I dove really hard into it, and I discovered another researcher who brought new elements to post-traumatic growth that had to do with the body. And then since then, I've added 2 of my own. So it's been this glorious ride, and at the same time of learning about post-traumatic growth, I was going through it, which was pretty powerful.
So who do you typically, now how does that work? First of all, I'm really sorry to hear all of that. Like, that's hard. How long ago did that all unravel?
That all unraveled in 2016,
Okay.
almost
So
10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a relationship with your ex at all?
I have a email relationship with him. I haven't seen him in probably 7 years.
Wow.
A friend of mine said to me when I started thinking about dating again, she said, you really need to meet somebody who's lost their wife but loved her dearly. You need to go to a grieving group. I'm like, Sarah, you can't just show up at a grieving group. She said, oh no, Andy died. We all know Andy died. The person that we all knew died. So you're official. You're not lying.
Right. There's different ways of grief.
Yeah.
It really is. It is a process of grief when you have that betrayal. It really is. And whether you work through that grief or have to move on, it's still grief nonetheless.
The biggest thing I could say around that is the power of forgiveness. I once read or saw this guy, Fred Luskin. I was in the middle of this happiness summit. There's a thing in Miami. I was surrounded by 3,000 people that were all practitioners serving some population around this idea of positive psychology and happiness. And Fred Luskin is a specialist in forgiveness, and he was talking about forgiveness and forgive and forget. And this woman stood up and she said, I watched my daughter die. I was walking across the street with her. There was a young teenager that was driving. The sun was in his eyes. He saw me but did not see my daughter. And you're telling me I should forgive and forget. And the guy went bananas on stage. He's a very eccentric dude. And he said, no, that's not what I'm asking you to do. Your brain actually cannot do that, but you can forgive and remember the story differently. And in that moment, he coached her a little, using her own words, that this young teenager, new driver, sun in his eyes, it wasn't an intentional thing. And she said, I have been working on forgiveness, forgiving him, but you're creating a whole different paradigm for me. And as I sat there listening, I just sobbed because I thought, wow, if he had not betrayed me, I would not be sitting in a room with 3,000 people so absolutely energized by positive psychology and what it can do to help people transform. I wouldn't be here. So forgiving and remembering the story differently has been an enormous part of my grieving process.
Rewriting your story, because there's always, this is not the same, but one of the things that I talked to my husband, I don't even know I don't even know how to wrap your head around that, because I couldn't imagine it either. But yes, because I'm sure that all she wanted to do was blame him, when it was his fault and he didn't do this and he didn't do that. But in all reality, if she just could flip the script and realize that it wasn't intentional, obviously it's not going to bring her back, but that it's not, I think your forgiveness could be there a little bit more. You're more apt to forgiving the individual for yourself. You forgive for yourself, not for them.
Yes, it's a gift that you definitely give yourself.
Yeah. How long ago was that then?
When I was in that conference?
Yeah.
That was 2018. Or 19. It was right before COVID.
Yeah, there's so much more to forgiveness and psychology and happiness, that it goes subconsciously. Everybody thinks that it's externally, that they're trying to look and seek external resources, whether it's a beautiful house, a nice car, a fit body, all those things, which yes, when you are healthy, that helps, but it's the foods that you're consuming that will help your internal happiness overall. It's not necessarily how you look, it's how you feel internally. But there's so much more psychology. Psychology was always my favorite. I've wanted to learn more about it, but I also get super bored when I'm reading really long books and stuff like that. But yeah, psychology is so interesting because our brain is so powerful. I think we all fail to realize how powerful our brain is. Because for example, and as I'm sure, if you're having a dream and you're having a nightmare and you're thinking like maybe that there's a lion chasing you and you're sweating and you're hyperventilating and all of those things, and you wake up and your body is sweating and you are trying to catch your breath, like your brain doesn't really know the difference between reality and what's fictional. So we make up these scenarios, our brains make up these scenarios because it goes into fight or flight. It wants to protect you as much as possible. Now we need to be able to overcome the caveman style where we're instantly in fight or flight every single moment. We don't have to fight for our life every single day, but our mind and our body will initially go there to protect us. But we have to be able to recognize that and realize, okay, this is not the safest direction to go. I don't know how to, and I'm not explaining that great, I'm sure, but you could maybe explain or elaborate on that a little bit more than I can. So
yes, this is such a beautiful part of this, and it points to the element that I've added to post-traumatic growth, which is permission to feel, or emotional health. And a lot of us, the people that I serve I call them type C people, and that's not my verbiage, that was by Lydia Temashok. Type C people are the opposite of type A. They tend to suppress or repress emotions.
yeah.
They tend to be people pleasers, and they tend to avoid conflict at all costs. And that might be because they want to be liked, or it might be they just want to keep the peace. It doesn't really matter. But these skills are often learned in our childhood for whatever reason. I'm a middle child. I don't know if that added to it, but I am a transformed type C. People pleasing, ever giving, never receiving, or allowing myself to receive. And that conflict resistant left all of my emotions stuffed. I have since learned, and I know what it feels like now, is stuffed emotions turn into resentment. It goes through this bitterness and then into resentment. And I can't even think of the word resentment without thinking of the word cement. Because when you don't give emotions motion, they stay stuck and they'll come out sideways. They come out sideways tomorrow, next week, or next year. To your point, when you feel overwhelmed, or I hate to use the word triggered, but if you're feeling a strong emotion, there is a real specialty in being able to just take a hot second and discern, is this real right now? Is this happening in this moment? Is this a new feeling, or is this triggering an old feeling that I'm now projecting onto this other human in front of me? And that is a big, long process to get there. But let me tell you, when you get it, it is so powerful, and it actually gives you everything that you want, which is to be able to have deep, intimate relationships with other people and influence people in a positive way. That's what people pleasers want to do. That is their superpower, but they often can't access it because this emotional overwhelm, it's actually been referred to, I love this word, emotional inflammation.
Oh, yeah.
And it's often very similar to physical inflammation. You don't really know the source. When we're physically inflamed, a lot of times they'll say, okay, we're going to deal with your nutrition. So we're going to start at zero. You're going to basically eat no gluten, no sugar, no caffeine, no alcohol, no. So you're going to go to this bland diet, and then we're going to add in. It's very similar to that. You can't really find the original source, but you can start to discern your feelings on your own. It doesn't have to involve another human. And a lot of women I know, and a lot of women I serve, have no access to their feelings.
Oh, I believe that. I think most women are such people pleasers, and they're doing what they feel is best for their children, or like they get frustrated with their husband, and instead of, you get tired of nagging, but that's how our husbands look at it. So you just keep it in. You're like, I'm not even going to tell him what I'm frustrated about. I'm just going to do it myself. Then that starts to build up resentment, because you start taking on all of the responsibilities, where a man can literally just get up and go to work. The woman has this and this and this and this to take care of before she can go to work. And then when you're at work, who are the kids calling? Who is setting up the doctor's appointment? So you start getting all of this resentment, which that is one thing my husband and I have been working on together over the last many years, actually, is that him taking on a lot more responsibilities at home too, and doing a hard handoff versus a soft handoff. And we did counseling not too long ago, and what that means is, if we give our husband a responsibility, we are instinctively going to follow up with them, make sure they got it done, make sure it's done, blah blah blah, all those things. The more you do that, the more they're going to continue to rely on you to remind them, rather than you just handing it off and just like wiping your hands clean of it. One of the things that we did here quite a while ago is, anytime we went on vacation, I'm always the one packing for the kids. I'm always the one making sure that who they're going with, coordinating that, getting the sheet ready for the doctors if they need to go to the doctor, booking the flight, booking the trip, doing all of the things, in addition to taking care of the dogs and getting them to boarding and things like that. The one thing him and I agreed upon, even just the one thing, was him handling the dogs, making sure that they're up to date on their shots. If we have to take them to a boarding facility, they have to have their Bordetella, their rabies shots, all of those things, and he has to book it. Like, that relieved a lot of stress. So anytime we go anywhere, not my problem. If we head out and the dogs, you don't have a place for them, you're gonna have to figure it out. Not my problem. I got everything else figured out. But that's a hard handoff. Not, hey, did you get somewhere, figure something out for the dogs? But it takes time. It takes patience, a lot of patience, when you're doing those hard handoffs.
And to ask for what you need. I think there's such a stigma, like we believe that, that it means we're not fiercely independent. And I often say to my clients, Independence makes you strong. Interdependence is what helps you grow. Like, you have to be able to ask for what you need and then allow yourself to receive it. There's this great book, I think it's called, I can't remember her name, but I think it's called The Queen's Code. It's offensive in a lot of different ways if you're a young woman, but one of the things that really stuck with me is that when you ask a man for something or your partner for something and you receive it, it's really important to explain to them how it makes you feel. Thank you for taking care of the dogs. It makes me feel so free and able to do all of these other things. When we don't allow men to help us or partners to help us or even humans, what she says is we become frog farmers. And I was like, what the hell is a frog farmer? A frog farmer is when you cut your prince off at the knees and don't allow them to be your prince. Or you kiss a lot of frogs, they become your prince or something. And I thought, oh my God, I was a frog farmer my entire 25 years of marriage. And I have 2 sons that I don't want to be emasculated. So I'm like trying to go back to my sons who are now 27 and 28 and be like, okay, boys or young men, this is what you do, and you do it in service of, and you understand, and you're in this relationship where they're receiving and they're acknowledging receipt. Wow, that makes me feel like a woman.
Right.
Simple, but really powerful on the other end of that. I don't know why I got off on that track, but I think
over generations, it has become a lot more common for women to be able to ask for that kind of help. Whereas like growing up, my dad, love him dearly. If my mom probably approached him like that, I don't know how he would take it. He'd be like, what are you, I think the generation was so different. And then his parents, no way. Like grandma ever probably telling grandpa how she felt. I don't know. I don't know how that would go. I really don't, or how they would react to it. My dad is probably not as like up to emotional feelings as like my husband is. I can approach my husband. I can talk to him. I can tell him the same thing 100 different times before it finally clicks. Don't get me wrong, he's still a man. But yeah, I think like my mom going to my dad and me going to my husband are 2 totally different things. Like my husband has a lot more open-mindedness around my feelings, around my emotions, and probably has a lot more like empathy than my dad would for my mom. They love each other, but I think just the generation, he grew up like a lot tougher, I don't know, mentality kind of thing, which is not always a good thing. If you can't express your emotions, like you said, you tend to suppress them. You don't know how to let them out. You don't know how to serve other people, let alone yourself.
the danger in that, and thank you for that, because my sons have basically said the same to me, like, Mom, you didn't totally damage us. We are way ahead of the curve on emotional health, way further along than Dad ever was. But what's really powerful about that type C research, it came out in the 1970s, which is really sad to me because we should have carried it forward. But Dr. Temashak, who's a woman, did the same research alongside the 2 gentlemen that were doing research about type A and type B personality types. And the type A was done at cardiac centers, because the idea was type A people are very like go-getters, strong. They have a really strong sense of emotion, tend to like, I just need this right now. Super stressed. And that can lead to cardiac issues.
Oh.
And then type B are the people that we all want to be. We want to be able to healthily emote, tell people when they've hurt us, share our feelings, ask for what we need. And then there's type C, who stuff everything, suppress everything. Well, type C has been, Lydia Temashak did not create it for this reason. It was really type A, type B, and type C. But type C is known to cause cancer. It's another element or cocktail, part of the cocktail, if you will. If you suppress emotions, it does cause immune dis-ease, which can eventually turn into disease like fibromyalgia, there's a whole blanket of immune dysfunction, including cancer. And I truly believe that is part of the cocktail that caused my cancer. Found me probably the most physically fit I've ever been in my life. So that explained a lot to me.
Yeah, isn't that wild to think about? That it's not just, yes, it could be in your genetics, but it's not just environmental. Like it can be internal. Like you can emotionally and mentally and physically do it to yourself. I truly believe it. I really truly believe it because I feel like, so my dad was just diagnosed with cancer October of 2023. So he's in remission now. He had part of his lung removed, all those things. But I think my dad, he's always been, he's a very, I don't know if he'd be type, probably ABC, all of it, but he's
Yeah.
never expressed any of his emotions. I've never seen much emotion from him at all. So I think he just suppresses everything so much, and he has always done that. Now, don't get me wrong, didn't take care of himself, doesn't exercise, smoked like a pack a day, drank, all the things. So obviously, all of that is a combination of it too. But I really do believe that when you suppress everything that goes on in your life and you can't fully let it out, talk about it. I would say I'm more like AB, and my husband's definitely more like on the C side. He does tend to bottle things in, and he doesn't ever like come out and address it, but it does drive me crazy because I'm like, I know something's bothering you, just talk to me about it. You know what I mean? Like, I can see it in you physically. Tell me, talk to me. And he's gotten a lot better at that. He has. Over the last month and a half, we did some couples therapy, and it has just been a game changer. Like he realizes how important it is for him to let me know, because he's always tried to suppress it because he doesn't want to upset me. Okay, I don't know how you feel or how that makes you feel, and I continue doing these things like doing open houses on the weekends and evenings and showings, and you're not telling me how important quality time, because that's his love language, but you're just okay with it. I think you're okay with it. I'm going to keep doing it because that's what I need to do in my work and my career. But knowing how important that quality time is, and he's finally able to say, hey, could you try doing this or maybe do this? Game changer. It's a game changer.
So
That's what
powerful.
we need in a relationship.
Mark Brackett has this beautiful exercise that you should all do. You just take, like, you list 5 people that you come in contact in a day. Just write down the 5 people. Maybe it's your partner, your spouse, your family member, your coworker, and then right next to their name, without thinking too hard about it, just really let it just come, how you feel when you see that person.
Oh, interesting.
So if it's your spouse and it's frustration,
Yeah.
or if it's your coworker and it's distrust, the reason is because there is an unspoken emotional issue that hasn't been shared. And I do this work all day, every day with clients. And I worked with a young woman, 27 years old. She had been working on this big project with another coworker who she considered her friend. They were in the random, like, Friday meeting, and the head of the company just called on the other person to say, hey, how's that project going? And so her coworker talked about the project. Never once did she mention this woman's name. Never once did she mention anything about her partnership, whatever. Afterwards, she couldn't even see straight, couldn't look at the woman. And the girl, is everything okay? Came over to her desk and she said, yeah, I'm fine. But it was so strained from that moment forward. And she's, I just want to punch her. And I said, well, have you chatted with her and said, wow, my feelings were really hurt. You didn't even bring up my name. So we worked on this for a week. She finally sat down with the girl, had lunch with her, and explained. And the girl started to cry. And she said, do you have any idea? I literally thought I was going to pass out, throw up, or have diarrhea when he called on me. I couldn't even see straight. I didn't even know you were in the room. I actually have no idea what came out of my mouth. Right. I left that conference room, and I went right to the ladies' room because I still didn't know what part of my body was going to explode. She's, I am so sorry, but I was so anxious in that moment.
Yeah.
And so she righted it. She went and sent an email to the head of the department saying, this is what happened. I want to make sure that credit is, that's how we healthily emote.
Yes.
We share.
Yes.
So when you have a feeling, a frustrated feeling, every time you're around that person,
Yeah.
dig down and really try to understand, what is it? What do I need right now? What's happening, and how can I clear the air? Because the energy is there. You felt it every single time you walked in the room with your husband.
That's interesting. It's going back to what we talked about before, is rewriting the story. She had the story in her mind that maybe this lady was not wanting to give her credit. She wanted to take credit for everything, and she's not even going to acknowledge the fact. So like, she's writing her own story. Whereas if she could have rewrote the story and realized, oh, she was super nervous, maybe she wouldn't have felt as frustrated, but then at the same time, maybe she wouldn't have approached her. So it's obviously a great thing that she did feel that way, but it's even better that she even brought it up to her, because I know that I've done that before. I'm a very empathetic person, but I don't take things personally. I don't take insults. If somebody's like, Shae, hey, you're fat, but I probably have gained a little bit of weight. I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. So, but I don't take offense to things. So I need to be cognizant of what I say and when I say and how I say things to certain people, because something so small to me that I never would have thought was an insult somebody else has taken it as an insult. But a lot of times they probably don't approach me. So then they have this like bad taste in their mouth. And I'll never forget, this happened many years ago. It was a culture thing, and I was talking about one of my clients speaking a certain language, and I couldn't understand him. Well, I was speaking to a Hispanic lady, and to this day, I don't really know what happened, and I didn't realize how upset she was or that I even offended her. But something that I had said had offended her, because the gentleman I was referring to was not Hispanic. He was a different culture, so she was upset that I assumed he spoke Spanish. It was the weirdest thing. And it doesn't make sense to me, but every culture is different. And then one of my co-agents, who I still work with today, that individual had talked to my co-agent, and my co-agent was like, whoa, you have to realize who was talking. Like, Shae is the least offensive person. She would never intentionally, if you knew her, you would know that she did not mean to be offensive at all. But that person, and has still to this day never approached me, and obviously I was like, I'm so sorry. But yeah, things like that, I'm like, ooh, you don't really know when you're offending somebody.
No, but the other part of that is her, like in the case earlier with my client, when you stay and you ruminate and then you talk about it and you tell people and you play the story over again and again,
Yeah.
that emotion needs motion.
Yes.
It needs, you just need to accept, wow, she really offended me. She hit a live wire. Whether or not she wants to continue a relationship with you, that's not even the point. But she is continuing a relationship with you by telling other people that it offended her, when really, to clear it all up, giving that emotion motion and saying, wow, Shae, that feels really offensive. I blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
In that moment, as a human being, you have the ability to say, wow, that's not what I meant at all. Let me nip this in the bud. This has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
The power of healthily emoting could clear up so much craziness in the world, because we just spend time spinning and stewing, and emotions have a 90-second window.
I believe that.
Astonishing, right?
I believe that.
If left to their own devices, the physiological effect of an emotion, that might be the sweaty hands, the heartbeat, like you said, waking up from that dream. It's 90 seconds if we just let it flow. If we hold on to it, then it's like ink. It darkens everything that we're doing. And I'm sure you in your professional world, in that emotional buying a house, like much emotions. If somebody's coming at it from a negative scarcity, whatever mindset, their decision is going to be completely different than the person that's coming at it envisioning their children growing up and seeing themselves in this beautiful porch or whatever. You could be given the same exact facts, which is the house,
Yeah.
and get a completely different response.
Yep. I got to play a couple things off of that because it's so true. One of the things that my husband and I have been working on is when something comes up, how we need to approach it, because you talk about telling people what your needs are, is we're supposed to basically say, hey, I feel blank about blank, I need blank. So then you tell them how you feel, what it's about, and what you need instead. So for example, for me, if I'm on my phone in the evenings, his love language is quality time. So what he used to say to me is, hey, cheetah fingers. Okay, that instantly makes me defensive and irritated and frustrated because I'm trying to do all the right things and be successful and bring income in so we can do all these things in life. Whereas if he approached it as, hey babe, like I need you to maybe finish up what you're doing or get off your phone for a little while because I feel very distant from you and me and the kids need you to be here. Boom. Two things, same thing, but approached in two totally different ways. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then the other thing I know there was one other thing, but I remember somebody's reality is so much dictated on their emotion. And the prime example when I realized this was about 4 years ago. We have an Airbnb. It was an old church. We converted it to an Airbnb. Absolutely beautiful. I loved everything. I had this passion for it. It was a nightmare. If anybody knew what we had to go through with that place, it was hell and back 3 different times. But anyway, we were standing there with the fire marshal, state building inspector, our contractor, and then my husband. And I don't remember what the conversation was, but my emotions and my blood level was way up here. Like I was so mad to the point that I had to remove myself and go to call my attorney. That's how upset I was. My husband is a lot better at keeping in calm situations because he doesn't like confrontation. I'm going to throw that shit at you, but he's not. But I remember, I don't remember what the conversation was, but I remember him and I having a conversation later that day talking about what they were discussing while we were all standing there. Because I was like, no, this is what he said. And my husband's, no, this is what he said and this is what he meant. I'm like, no. And I remember there was like an aha moment. I'm like, holy moly. We were both standing in the same room with the same people at the same time. And I completely interpreted what that person said 180 from what maybe he meant. I'm sure my husband was right because I was not in the right state of mind. And that right there was my aha moment of what you say to somebody and how they interpret it has such an effect, or what their emotional state is will have an effect on how they interpret what you say.
It is, if your listeners go away with nothing else, that should be the piece. And I have to say, going through my divorce, we were both pretty big in the investment world. There was a lot of money, there was a lot of property, there was a lot of blah, blah. And I was an emotional wreck. He was with his new young girlfriend, showing up at the meetings with his new bright white teeth and this funky haircut, and lost all this weight. And I could barely make myself breakfast in the morning. But I was going through this positive psychology program, and I understood that emotions could literally wreck this for me. And that's exactly what he thought was going to happen, because that's exactly who I'd always been, like emotionally cray, because I suppressed everything and then somebody hit a button and I exploded. Yeah. So I had this process during my mediation, and I would keep my bag behind me. So this goes back to your original question, like how do we stop ourselves from... I kept my bag behind me. It had a bottle of water and a pen in it. And when I got emotionally charged from what's happening in the conversation, I pushed myself away from the table and turned. If I could get myself regulated, take a couple of breaths while I was getting the water, if I could feel my feet on the floor, my seat on the seat, refocus on what my desired values and feelings were, I would turn back and re-engage. If I couldn't, I'd pick my bag up and say, I need a 5-minute break. I just need to go to the restroom. I would take my bag with me. In the bathroom, I'd splash water on my face, do my superpower pose. If I could again, if I could get back into my body and feel regulated, and you know what it feels like to be dysregulated, you explained that, like you feel like your head's going to blow off.
Yeah.
If I couldn't get myself regulated, I texted my lawyer and said, cancel the meeting, nothing is going to happen, I'm leaving. The first time I did that, my lawyer went bananas on me, called me, who the hell do you think you are? There's 5 people in this room. And I was like, wow, who do you think you are? I'm paying you. That was like my first defining moment. No, mister, I'm paying you. This is my dime. He called and apologized after that. I did it only one more time during the negotiations. Shae, I am not lying. I got every single thing I wanted. And I wasn't trying to screw him. I just wanted my portion of the financial future that we both worked really hard to get. And I only could do that because believe me, when I got to my car after every meeting, I fell apart. I threw up. I could barely, but during those meetings, I swear to God, he sat in front of me and he was like, who the hell are you? I was strong. I often say a strong back and a soft front. A strong back, and I equate this to the cross. Not that I'm hugely religious, I'm spiritual, but the cross to me, and this is what I learned several years ago, is this part of the cross is knowing that I am a good human, I'm strong, I want to be on my own side. Only then can I open myself up this way and to the person in front of me and be vulnerable and still stand tall and protect myself. You know, when an animal is afraid, it goes into a ball because it's covering all of those organs. If we can stand up for ourselves, and I stood up for myself every single time, keeping my emotions separate because this was transactional. Yep. These were the facts, and if I couldn't show up that way, I removed myself. I had that power, right. I had that choice, and I would recommend that to anybody listening. Give yourself the power of that pause. Can I react? Am I going to react, or can I respond in this moment? If I can't respond, say I need 5, I need a half an hour. Say to your husband, you know what? I am so overwhelmed with emotion right now. Nothing I say is going to make sense. I need to go for a walk. Yep. Can we talk about this in an hour?
Yeah. Emotional intelligence. That is the number one thing I can encourage anybody and everybody, not only in this world, but as an entrepreneur, is emotional intelligence, and not reacting, but responding to people. Because how you react or how you respond to somebody, client, another agent, anything, is going to be a make or break in your business.
Yep.
So
true.
Kathy, what is, before we take off, because obviously you and I could talk forever, I feel like.
Yes, we could.
All of this, but what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self, or maybe somebody who is looking to get into entrepreneurship at all?
You know what? I'm gonna say, be willing to risk the relationship, because you're no longer willing to risk the relationship with yourself. Ah. So that requires a lot of honesty in who you are. Yeah. And one of the ways that my therapist has advised me to do that is think so hard about what you need and what you want and how you're feeling that you're burning calories. Yeah. Taking yourself out of that other human, right, and focusing on yourself.
I love that. I love that, Kathy. Hey, Kathy, how could somebody get a hold of you or read your article? How can they follow you? Where can they go to be in touch with you and learn more about what you do?
Yes, the best place to do that is my website, kathywashburn.net.
Okay.
I also write on Substack, and you can find me there at Sense of Peace.
Okay.
Awesome. Or my podcast, which I hope to have you on, Shae. Yes, Investment of Self.
What was the name of your podcast? Oh, Sense of Self, or what was it?
Investment of Self.
Investment of Self. Yes, that is so important, is investing in yourself. So important. That is your foundation. So I truly appreciate it, Kathy. Thank you so much for listening. And again, to all the listeners out there, Please, if you took away some value from this, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this to somebody that you feel could truly benefit. And honestly, I feel like so many people, if not everybody, could benefit from an episode like this, talking deeper, going in deeper into psychology and the subconscious and what you can do when you are in those high stress situations. Because if you haven't been in one, I promise you, you will be at some point in time in your life. So emotional intelligence is key. So be sure to like, subscribe, share, so this can get out to other listeners and help more people out there. So again, thank you so much, Kathy, for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you for your gift of time, and I wish you well.
Take
care, Shae.
And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Real Moms Podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their story and insights today. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And hey, sharing is caring, right? Share this podcast with your fellow mompreneurs, friends, and anyone who you feel could use a dose of inspiration. Share it on your social media as well. But most importantly, if you found this episode helpful, please leave me a 5-star review. This helps get our information out to those who have never heard or seen us before. Are you feeling inspired and you're sure that you could add some value to the podcast? Shoot me a message and let's talk. We love hearing from you. So connect with us on social media. Tag me at Shae J Spitz, that's ShaeJSpitz, and share your thoughts and takeaways, or even suggest topics you'd like to have us explore more in the future episodes. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Your resilience is your strength, and your pursuit of abundant living is truly remarkable. As always, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep embracing the beautiful chaos of being a mompreneur. Until next time, take care, stay real, and keep living abundantly.